Welcome in, brave soldiers of Midgar. How's it going? Hope everyone is okay. Hope everyone is ready for this amazing chapter. This chapter is the aftermath of Sector 7 plate drop. It's so tough to see our favorite characters right now, crushed not only by the wave of steel, of stone, of rubble, but for the hard and heavy heart that they bring. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Chapter 13. Well, you may know it as A Broken World. I know it as Where It All Began, Part 2. And this is just another branch that got out of the main timeline. A timeline that was crushed in the last episode, as you could see. If not, you can jump there and rewatch the first episode. So, my fellow soldiers, welcome to Simo RPG, and we are here to continue our series of chapter by chapter theories, explanation on Final Fantasy VII Remake after 5 years of the game. So many surprises still. Chapter 13 of Final Fantasy VII Remake, A Broken World, isn't just about navigating the aftermath of the Sector 7 plate collapse. No. It's about grief, transformation, and a city caught in the grip of fate. Well, in today's deep dive, we'll explore all the hidden meanings, timeline ends, and boldest theories behind Chapter 13. This is a chapter where hope is dying, but maybe, just maybe, something new is trying to be born. As the party regroups after the catastrophic fall of Sector 7 plate, the environment tells us everything. Rubble, smoke, bodies, the broken remains of families, homes, and dreams. And of course, we as humans, we are attached to all of this, personal belongings and stuff like that. But the feeling that we see Barret right here, the true feeling of anger, lack of power, seeing everything that they had, worked, and known, falling apart like rubble. Very hard. Barret here does an amazing job. Once again, one of my favorite characters in the main series, because it's so well built. It's a beautiful character, a character with emotion behind that, all that madness, all that grip, and behind that Gatling gun. He is a father, a man, with great ideals. Now we see a broken man, a broken character, as Tiffy is. This is the hardest blow on this game that we could ever expect Shinra to do. Well, not only that, this isn't just devastation, it's trauma visualized. The world is literally and spiritually shattered for these characters, for these people. Friends were lost, homes were lost. And while characters like Barret rage and despair, which is normal, Cloud begins to emotionally fracture too. This sets the tone for a theory that we'll explore later, that this chapter marks a timeline fracture, one the Whispers failed to contain. So definitely this is part 2, the second part of this brilliant theory that is where it all begins. And no doubt about it was this chapter that brought Barret, Cloud, and Tifa closer than ever. And you see, give me something to hang on. And we see the true colors of Barret here. He's a softie, he's one of the best and well-written characters in gaming, in my opinion. We see in the last episode that the Whispers could not contain several facts of the main timeline, so the timeline began to fracture once again. But these 2 chapters, as we can see, they are decisive on that. And we see Cloud once again losing his mind. His fractured mind is getting to him more and more and more. Sephiroth now is real. It's not just a vision. He appears, talk, and it's always directly with something. Nobody else can see him but Cloud at this moment. And this is caused by the shock of the Sector 7 compared to Nibelheim. He's trying to save people. He keeps losing to Sephiroth like that. In this case, he lost for Shinra, which is a big thing, He lost for Shinra when he didn't become a soldier, when he lost his family and city and hometown, Nibelheim, for who? Sephiroth, Shinra employer, a Shinra project. He lost Sector 7 to Shinra. He couldn't protect Aerith. Got kidnapped at Shinra. So his mind is fractured. And it's not easy to deal with that. Barret, on the other hand, although he lost everything that he worked for, the only concern right now was Marlene's safety. Just like a father that he is, he's a father. And you see, she got short hair. She's cute as a button. She was wearing
pink. She was wearing a pink dress today.
She's sleeping upstairs. And that's when he finally stops to think and reacts to life.
I want to see her too.
It's very beautiful to see a character like this, so deep, so strong, because Barret is so strong. But then,
Keep it down. Don't
as a normal man, as a normal father, as a normal person, he cracks under the pressure of losing his daughter.
Upstairs.
So, like I said, one of the best, well-written characters. It's amazing. Barret's grief and leadership, we can, touch like a crisis of identity at this point. Because Barret is definitely shaken up by all the events that we saw on the last chapter. Barret is a front and center.
I'm sorry.
In chapter 13. Is that right there?
I'm the one who asked her to
And rightly so, of course.
We'd only just
His grief is volcanic, raw, unfiltered. We saw that while he starts
advantage of her.
punching the walls.
It's not your fault.
But it's more than personal. Barret begins to question his mission, his beliefs, and his purpose. There's moments of silence. There is pain in his voice. there is the look that he actually gives when
She
everything
must trust you all a great deal.
is crumbled there on the floor, and it's very, very deep and hard.
As an ancient,
At the same time, of course, it's impressive how the devs did this character.
she's not my daughter.
But back to the main core of this chapter. Once again, we're gonna see some fractured lines that started in the last chapter. That's why we call this chapter part 2 of where it all began.
My husband, he'd been
Barret's
to fight on the
internal
front lines.
struggle mirrors the larger theme of this
Then I received
chapter.
a letter saying he'd be home for a bit.
What do you do when your cause
I went to the
has
station
caused
to meet him.
pain? We all know that Shinra, put the Sector 7
He didn't.
down because of
I
Avalanche,
couldn't help fearing the worst.
because of Utai. It's not the main thing. The main thing is in order to create
Every day I went
the
to wait.
terror power that Shinra wanted, they needed to blame someone for a catastrophic thing. That's what happened here. But this was Barret's cause. The planet, saving people, saving lives. And so many lost so much.
Or that they were topsiders fallen on hard
Well, this could be seen as a metaphor for the planet's own pain. As Barrett's rage may be resonating with the live stream more than we realize. Also, when people died in Final Fantasy VII, they go to the live stream or back to the planet,
My husband had been away for
which
so long.
gives energy to the planet.
So I convinced myself the
So
safest
this could be a good
was
thing
with me.
because it's fooling the planet, right?
It took
But
me to it all for her to
what
stop being
if,
my family. She
and
was
this is a
real
big what
child.
if, it's one of the big theory that we have.
Strange
What if,
stories, like
since
how she and her mother had escaped,
the Whispers lost the timeline,
sad because her mother had just
or
returned
the timeline is fractured,
Their planet, huh?
nothing is going accordingly with the planet's will.
I didn't understand any of it at the time.
So the planet is in
I
pain.
asked if she meant one in the sky.
Sephiroth,
No,
in otherwise,
right here.
manipulating the live stream, like we saw in Advanced Children,
Look at that.
is benefiting from that.
Mommy, don't be sad.
So these two can be related
That's
once
what she
again
said to me one day, out of the blue.
by this fractured
So I
timeline.
asked her, "What's wrong?"
A man you really, really love just
Barret here, we get a brief introduction how Barret and his foster mother, if you want to call it like that, or mother, because she did help Barret grow. Explains us how he was living with her. Elmira
A few
knew
days later, I received a
after
letter saying my
this,
husband had been
after
killed.
this letter, that Barret was special. And she tried to protect her as much as she could. Now, of course, Barret being
Things like
the girl that she is,
Just know.
and knowing the things that she did,
But we were happy.
you would be very tough.
And then came the knock.
And we, of course, all know that Shinra has power in Midgar, and they would look for her.
No! Go away!
There you go. Saying once again, being a Turk, very polite, very easygoing.
You know you're not just any little girl. You're a descendant of the ancients.
And gives the old
I had no
story.
idea what
Barret,
it meant, so I said,
is a
"The
descendant
ancients."
of the ancients. We all know that.
They were the original stewards of the planet, whose
The really important part on this
to the promised land.
chapter, this sample of the chapter,
Believe the promised land to be
is
a myth.
the fact
Others
that Shinra allows Elmira,
But we take the words of the
you
scriptures
know,
at
to
face value.
have
They believe it
Aerith
to be quite real,
and to raise Aerith.
which is why Shinra would like very much for Aerith to help
You're
us.
wrong. I'm not an ancient.
But the problem here is
Even when you're all alone,
always,
don't you
there you
hear
go.
voices whispering?
This is the thing. Voice is whispering. So of course, we can say this is the planet talking to Aerith, or maybe it's the whispers of fate.
What she could do.
To continue to ride
But they
the
didn't just-
timeline
Doesn't sound like the Turks I know.
in the right direction.
She had to come willingly, otherwise it wouldn't work. They
And
said.
this makes sense, because once again,
Take her away. I'm sure she's still
Elmira's husband needed to die
and that they'll send her straight back home.
in order to all this timeline was corrected.
Doubt it.
You're not planning anything, are you?
So it's very, very, very
If I lost
self-explanatory
I don't know
that
if I could,
in this
if I could ever
particular timeline there are fractures,
just don't.
there are things that are not right.
Cloud.
Especially when Elmira says, don't go after her, don't go grab her, you know, and maybe they will release her, and maybe if we wait, you know. This is not what happened on Final Fantasy VII
Sector 7.
OG.
Got things.
This is definitely a branch of that reality, of that timeline.
Yeah.
And we saw this happening
Okay.
way before. Well, when we jump to go to Sector 7 once again to check the damage, the real damage, check the people, check friends, check anything, look for Wedge if so,
Good plan.
But how do we get to the park?
we will arrive to a sector where
Showed me before.
everything is destroyed.
Didn't mean anything by it.
And although this part of this chapter seems like a filler, he has deeper meaning that we're gonna see even further on intermission about Deep Ground. But we will let Deep Ground be Deep Grounds on another episode. So, on the way to Sector 7, the team sees the pain and the despair of many of the citizens of Sector 7.
Not bad.
Silence, murmuring, crying. All normal for those who lost a lot. But what is the real meaning on going to Sector 7?
There, that way.
Of course,
We'll have to find
it's
a way through.
searching
It's our only shot.
for Edge. As we search for Wedge, the tone will shift. And we'll see further ahead in the video that most of the green and the sorrow and the pain kind of goes away and is substituted by hope. There is hope, yes. No, but something feels off. Something is not right. Just like when we are fighting on the way, we feel always a presence. It's not the whispers. It's not the whispers of fate. It's not Sephiroth. So what can it be? In this chapter, they definitely look for the big reason of all sorrow, which is Shinra. You know, we see a city in flames right now, insecurity, and all the tone of the game immediately starts to change when we going to search for Wedge. Well, because while we are traveling to Sector 7, everything is kind of okay. You know, the thing already happened.
One step at a time.
There was a lot of, a lot of crying, a lot of anger, a lot of hate for Shinra. But when we arrive there and when we start searching for Wedge, it's like a feeling, Shinra presence is erratic, kind of a ghostly thing. And it's crazy because we discover a Shinra lab. Which we know that is used by Hojo for those crazy experiments that he does. With that, we can relate directly to Deep Ground. And once again, this didn't happen. The very reason that we reach Deep Ground is because Wedge survived when he shouldn't. So, arriving to the entrance of Sector 7, we know. We see the faces, we see the pain. Once again, it's not a big mood, but here it is. You see their hope. The hope of seeing our friends back. Wilmer, Wedge, Biggs, Jesse, and of course,
It's fine.
we want to see the rest of Sector 7 that we know. No?
This is bad.
Once again, we see that little kid with his father. Can't remember Betty, exactly. Friends of Marlene. But they don't know who else escaped. Of course, we know. We played this already. You guys too. But the sense of hope right here in the entrance is amazing. Even Barret is happy with that.
Yeah. Left a few things behind.
You see.
But the real problem
But it's all I got.
is when you descend, when you see Wedge there, and during the gameplay and during the game, you will see that immediately.
Godspeed.
There's something wrong. Okay? And as we descend deeper into the underground lab, we begin to feel it. Something beneath Midgar is wrong. This being only the service tunnel, we can grasp it yet. But the very idea that Wedge survived at all, and the ambiguity of his fate in later scenes, feeds a major theory that what the timeline is diverging again. That these two chapters are the beginning of the split, the big split on the timeline is on chapter 12 and chapter 13.
Just a little more. Come on. Come on.
Wedge isn't supposed to live. The Whisper's absence or inability to stop this event suggests they are either losing control or choosing to allow it. Although choosing to allow it makes zero sense, because they want to control every aspect of the timeline to keep it steady. And of course, Marl is still alive here as well. It's a character that we didn't know that existed on the OG. So none of these scenes, especially the underground scene, we don't play it on the OG because there's no point. Wedge didn't survive.
Then the rest.
Marlene is dealt with. We didn't have these characters, Weimer and Marl and stuff like that. We didn't have anyone like this. It was more linear, easier, I guess. But now we have the hope of Wedge being alive. And that's what we do. We descend immediately to look for survivors, with the hope to find Biggs and Jesse as well, because Wedge survived when he was not supposed to, though. Seeing this happening can't be, the choosing to allow it, choosing the Whisper. The Whispers are not choosing to allow it. I definitely think since the timeline is splitting, they lost power. They start losing control of these kinds of major fragmentations. And with that, Sephiroth is getting much more power, feeding, his will, feeding his power throughout the live stream or throughout the Whispers of Fate or the Harbingers of Fate.
That's Wedge's cat.
What?
Getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
Let's follow it.
And that's when we found Wedge Cat and start looking for him.
1, 2.
We're gonna find what? Not only Wedge, but the secret Shinra lab, the echoes of Hojo, and all the timeline experiences and experimentation that it does. In this case, it's only biological stuff. This is just failed experiments. Although, at certain point, we will see something very important for the DLC with Yuffie.
Coming down. Stay right where you are.
Guys, if you're liking the video so far, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave your comment, and we all appreciate you here. Recording these videos, a lot of trouble, a lot of effort, a lot of time to put it together. So we would appreciate if you like it, comment and like this video. Thank you so much. So on the beginning, we have that fall from Barret, as we can see right now. And he's going to start look for Tiff and Cloud, and of course you will see Wedge. Not only Wedge, but also this lab, Hojo's lab. And the Eden Lab is where chapter 13 flips into sci-fi horror. Failed experiments, cages, whispering echoes, all signs point back to Hojo, and to deeper dark forces at work beneath Midgar. And we know who are they. Deep Ground. Those crazy Shinra experiments. Of course we didn't know that they were beneath the Sector 7, for example. But this huge theory is that Shinra and possibly Hojo have begun experimenting with time. Not literally via machines, but biologically. Mutants that adapt too quickly, creatures that seem to remember attacks. Could Hojo be trying to harness the power of the Whispers themselves? This is one of the best theories that I read, and I really loved it.
I'm really gonna enjoy burning it all down.
And are we seeing the results of timeline bleed, where alternate versions of beings exist in the same space? This will be more fulcral on Yuffie chapters. There's two Yuffie chapters, Intermission as 1 and 2, and we will see the amazing relation that this chapter here, chapter 13, the beginning of all part 2, and Deep Ground. We will see all those mutant humanoid, like, you know, maybe the same kind of experiments that they did in Nibelheim, more advanced now, I think, in order to recreate Sephiroth, or even to support Sephiroth, which is crazy, but it can't be that. He began to experiment that with animals or even humans, kind of don't know. At this point we don't know if it was humans or not. But then we see a big experiment
You think Wedge is holding up okay?
came out.
Of course he is. He's a lot tougher than people think.
And like we saw on the theory,
Dreaming about his gas.
experience with time.
We should treat him to a nice meal when he gets back. His choice.
Because all of those monsters were failed experiments that we also will see further ahead on chapters 13, 14 and 15. They're probably throwback to Nibelheim. Now, with the fracture timeline, could those mutants feel something? Maybe in the air, in the characters, we don't know. To position themselves to attack like they do? Or are they just mindless creatures created in a lab? You know, like failed experiments, and that's it. There is a huge part in the final part of this chapter where the Whispers intervene,
Gonna make it out of here alive.
which goes a bit against this. Cloud's fragmentation, memory, and identity. We saw that in the last chapter began to erode. And, you know, as we see the interactions between them, not only, of course, Cloud, but talking about Cloud right now,
He's okay.
You sure?
seeing that, again, the time,
Making me worry like that. I'd kick your ass.
it's not the same. The timeline is not the same here.
Thank God.
Because everything is killing Cloud's memory and
Okay.
and Psyche and everything that Cloud is, his identity and stuff, is shattered. And once again, it's because the timeline is different. Wedge shouldn't be alive. Wedge should be buried in rubble, sadly.
What is this?
And there he goes. That feeling, that Shinra feeling, that eerie music is just crazy. And then the failed experiments appear. And although they don't look like the Nibelheim dudes, they are failed humanoids. Could be this bugs or even, fiends.
Experiments?
The point here is, right under Midgar, there's a facility with tons of experiments, and of course a big one as well, a big boss fight that we're going to see. And after that, Cloud appears, and we see him cracking again. Chapter 13 also contains that subtle but important crack in Cloud's psyche. After the plate fall, we see him start to disconnect once again. There are pauses, flashes, lines that don't land emotionally. This supports the theory that Cloud's constructed memories are starting to break. But what if the planet is trying to force him to remember the truth? Is the trauma of this chapter awakening his real identity? Well, in some parts, I do understand if the planet would do that. But then again, it's too early for that to happen. And that comes to other thing. Is, for example, the Whisper Silence. No, where are they? This is not supposed to happen. We are not supposed to found this laboratory. After being so present in early chapters, the Whispers are almost entirely absent here. Why? One theory is that they're losing control because Aerith's influence is growing. Or maybe the timeline is already so broken after the plate fall that there's nothing left to protect. Well, the second one I kind of don't agree with, because then we will see in later chapters that they will participate a lot in that. But could it be that Wedge's survival, Barret's rage, and Cloud's crumbling mind are all signs of a splinter timeline spiraling further off the designated course? Well, I think in Barret's case it's only normal. We saw that in the main game, Final Fantasy VII OG. Of course, Wedge and Cloud, we didn't see that. So, I guess that's where the second branch splits. That for me, the main reason of this chapter, and to show, well, actually 12 and 13, they are the main reason to happen. So the meaning of the chapter title, A Broken World. Now, the title A Broken World isn't just literal, it's philosophical as well. We're watching the breakdown of fate, the shattering of illusions, and maybe even the start of open timeline warfare. Basically, it's a battle between the timeline that is supposed to be, the timeline that is happening, and all his characters. Cloud, Barret, Tifa, Sephiroth, Aerith, and the Whispers. From this point forward, nothing is the same. Hope is a bit tainted. Memory is failing and survival is no longer enough. And here we see
God, were those?
the experiments. There are people, or once there were people.
That's the Shinra I know.
And this correlates immediately to Deep Ground, which we're going to see in Yuffie's episode. You know, chapter 1 and 2. But this fracture memories awakens once again Cloud for what happened in Nibelheim 5 years ago. And as soon as he tried to uncover more, what do you see? The Whispers come running because he cannot remember that now. Not right now. So we could say the end of one story and the start of another by the end of these two chapters, 12 and 13. Chapter 13 feels like an ending, but it's really a beginning. The world is broken, yes, but in those fractures there's space for rebellion, for truth, and for change. And we can see all that being a problem for the Whispers.
Let's go.
Because this timeline, the continuation of this chapter till the 14, 15, and till the end of the game, there's only
Cloud.
subtle nuances of Final Fantasy VII OG. This is no longer, after this chapter, this is no longer not even a replica or a trying of the Whispers of Fate to maintain the sacred timeline, if you want to call it like that. No. They no longer have that power. They are weaker now, and they cannot do it. What did you notice in chapter 13?
I saw them both at the
Did you feel like fate was breaking down too? Well, guys, I appreciate all your comments. So drop your theories in the comments. And, well, of course, if you enjoyed these lore pack breakdowns, you know what to do. It always helps us a lot to continue to do this work that we love. We have a lot of pleasure playing this, doing these series videos. Although, of course, it takes time. The edits take time. Everything takes time. You know, the scripts, the talking, everything takes time. But if you truly like, and if you are still here, no, hit that like button, subscribe, and join us as we keep entangling the myths of Final Fantasy VII Remake, alongside with you guys, alongside with the team, and we appreciate you so much. I hope to see you in the next episode. Chapter 14 will be awesome as well, full of theories and full of lore. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.